Recently, I was watching Netflix. Who doesn't? I don't know. And they had a program on there about young children as the age of 2 that were already reading, that taught themselves how to read. And children as young as 5 that were already had an IQ of 141, the genius level. A 12-year-old that had graduated from college with his master's degree. And then I turned it off and thought, that wasn't me. But it made me think, it made me think that these children really have no preconception of what they can and cannot do. And you can say they were brought in with gifts if you want. But I would say that to me, they have access to a universal energy that they have not shut down at this point, right? We haven't taught them the frameworks of society, like get a job, pay bills, those type of things, right? They're just open vessels. And they're harnessing the energy of the universe. And they have knowledge they maybe came with, maybe they're channeling it at this point in time. So let me to the Bible, 1 Corinthians says, we speak of God's secret wisdom, a wisdom that has been hidden, and that God destined for our glory before time began. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. And it just made me think that these children are coming with the joy and the love of the universe. They've harnessed this universal energy. They could not conceive it too, what it meant to read a book. They didn't conceive the lessons that they necessarily learned from books to get their master's degree. They didn't hear it from anything. A 5-year-old doesn't hear how to read a book, how to pronounce a word. They came knowing this information. They had harnessed the energy of the universe. And guess what? So can you. That has not been turned off. The energy of the universe is still with you. We just sometimes let the lower energies in life shut us off to that. Okay? Sometimes we let life get in the way of the wisdom of spirit, which is what harnessing the universe is. What these children are picking up on is the wisdom of the spirit. So I'm going to read a section out of the Bible, and don't freak out that I have a Bible in my hand. I'm not like, here we go, people. I just forgot my other glasses, so I have to bring it closer. So bear with me. The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. For who among men knows the thoughts of a man except the man's spirit within him? Females too. Remember what I'm reading from. In the same way, no one knows the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. We have not received the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we may understand what God has freely given us. Okay? This is what we speak. Not in words taught us by human wisdom, but in words taught by the Spirit, expressed in spiritual truths and spiritual words. It goes on to say, we have the mind of Christ. Agreed? Not by what humans tell us, but what the Christ mind tells us. The mind to harness the universe, to reconnect and to recognize when we are receiving the wisdom of Spirit. That's the key. To recognize when we're receiving the wisdom of Spirit. Okay? There's a book that I really like. It's called The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. It's a small book. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. But the book is about a man named Walter Russell. Glenn Clark is the one who wrote the book. And he interviews Walter Russell. Now, Russell, interestingly enough, lived from May 1871, May 19th, 1871, he was born, to May 19th, 1963. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, was born 17 years before Russell. Okay? And he died 15 years before Russell did. So they lived at the same time. But there's no evidence that they ever knew each other. But what Walter Russell talks about is purely unity principles, right? So at the same time, there's a bunch of people starting what we call New Thought today, while Charles and Myrtle were going through their transition of their faith to form Unity. Russell was an artist first, then he was a sculptor, musician, philosopher, scientist, real estate investor, architect, economist. He would say that he lived 5 lives at the same time. Right? There are many things attributed to Walter Russell that are famous that we have no idea. And what Russell would say is that he was tapped into a creative energy, and he just knew how to do these things. He just knew how to sculpt one day. He just knew it. And so when Clark asked him, don't you ever get tired? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I face that all the time. I'm tired. I can't do that. And he replied, can energy tire or become fatigued? Can energy tire or become fatigued? Certainly not. For all energy is the thought energy of the universal creative force. And that never lessens, never diminishes. What is it then that makes we say we're tired, makes us say we're tired? And Russell would say only one thing, an unbalanced body. Physically, nothing more. We feel tired. But the creative force does not tire. The wisdom of Spirit does not tire. Okay? The harness to the universe, to harness the universe, the universal creative force, the Christ mind, the energy that we talk about doesn't tire. It's still there. When I was young, I had 5 goals. Okay, now bear with me, I'm young, so that's before I knew about life, right? Now, goals, I would say, are different. They're different than what I'm talking about, the creative force. So I had 5 goals in high school. I wanted to go to California. I wanted to become an artist because if I have to work for a living, then I want to do it in a field that I really enjoy. I wanted the car of my dreams, which at then was an RX-7, so some of you would probably figured out how old I am. I wanted enough money that I didn't have to worry about it. And I wanted a horse. Those were my 5 goals. So I graduated from high school. In June and July, I went to California for 2 weeks. And came back in August, I started art school. And then I went on to have a career for 15 years as a creative services director. I had the car of my dreams. Pontiac Grand Prix supercharged turbo. Forest green. Leather seats. I love that car. Oh my gosh. I love that car. I cried when I gave that car up. I have enough money to support myself ever since I left home at 18. I'm blessed in that amount, right? I don't have a horse, but I've been riding horses since I was 12, so I go riding whenever I get a chance to go riding. I've ridden in the Bay of St. Petersburg in the waters. So if we go on a vacation and there's a horse trail or something, I usually will ride, right? But those are goals. I've done many things in my life. I've achieved many goals in my life. But there are times when I've been given that intuition, that thought, that creative force, that I just moved to do something. So when I got into Unity, I went to this workshop called Women of the Chalice, and it talked about 12 women in the Bible. It really struck me. And then one day I'm in church and I hear this voice, if you will. I think you know what I'm talking about. This inner intuition that says, you need to paint these women. And I went, I don't paint oil portraits. That's not me. I draw realism. I do portraits, but I use pencil. I dabbled in oil, but up until that point in my life, never did oils. So I'm like, okay. So then I started looking around the congregation, and I started seeing qualities of the women that I wanted to draw. For example, Tamar. I saw this woman that, to me, just represented and embodied Tamar. So I went up to these women, 12 of them. Can I take a picture of you? I have to paint. I'm being told I have to paint. They're like, yeah, sure. So I painted. I knew the size. All of them were uniformly. I went out into the garage, and for 9 months, I painted. Even from leaving here in Orlando and going to Nova Scotia, I took all my supplies with me. And, it's hard to move an oil painting. When it's wet, they don't dry. They dry. It takes 2 years for an oil painting to dry. But we brought it back. Then it was all of a sudden, you need to build these stands to put the portraits on. That intuition. Okay, I got to build this from scratch. For some reason, I knew the size, the wood, how to put the screws in. I built these stands. I don't know where this is going, but this is the energy that I'm feeling. I was very proud of them. But then it was like, you need to show these paintings now. So ultimately, it ended up that I showed them at a Unity church. They hung at this Unity church for a while, if some of you recall, in the hallways. They went to a Methodist church. They went to Apopka St. Francis of Assisi, a Catholic church. I had prints made. I got a call from Pennsylvania. They wanted a copy of the prints. I don't know how. And then ultimately they ended up at St. Margaret's Mary Museum on I-4 for a month. And then from there, I developed a workshop called Women of the Bible, Voices Across the Wind, which I've done a couple times. And if you ask me, did I plan all of that? No. Here's the thing. I don't know who got what out of those paintings, and it's not my business to know. I just went with the flow. And it wasn't a goal. I'm going to make a goal. One day I'm going to paint these women. No. It was a directive. It was an energy force. It was the universe telling me to do this. Right? So I followed. We all have spiritual gifts that the Bible points out. It says that some have the gifts of prophecy, serving, teaching, encouraging, giving, leadership, mercy, wisdom. Some have the word of knowledge, faith, healing, miraculous powers, distinguishing between spirits, speaking in tongues, the interpretation of tongues, helping, governments, diversity. Those are all listed in the Bible in various places as gifts. Charles Fillmore would say in Christian Healing prior to 1909, God mind is living, acting thoughts. God mind is thinking in you. Okay? Is pushing you and pushing your mind to grasp true ideas and carry them into expression. The gifts of teaching. How do you express it? Maybe you had the idea, I should start a class. Don't ignore it. Start the class. It's not up to you to decide. Harness the universal power that's being given to you, that's there. You're just tapping into it. Okay? One time I had a dream. I have very, very vivid dreams. I called the people in my dreams extras, like in a movie, because I don't know who they are, but they all show, there'll be millions of people in my dreams. It was weird. So I had this really weird, bizarre dream about, I won't even go into it about, but what it led to, it was an escape dream. Immediately when I woke up, I started writing, right? And before I knew it, I had a book of this story that started from way in the beginning, and the dream is incorporated somewhere in the middle, and it ends. I wrote a book. Where did that come from? I've enjoyed the book. I haven't published it. These are the ideas in the universe and how we harness energy that never leaves. It's there the entire time. There are only a few gifts there are other few gifts, that make you you. Besides the ones I read. Artists, writers, singers, that's what makes you you. Right? Those are your gifts. These are the gifts that manifest for everyone to see. Right? The gifts that harness the universe. The gifts that take an idea from seemingly nowhere and tells you how to expand it. How to expand those gifts that you have. How to use them. How to share them. People would call that inner voice. The silence, the still small voice inside. You know what I'm talking about. The one that comes up and sometimes we push aside. How do we expand them? How do we share them? The ideas that seem like they belong to someone else, but they're not. They're yours. They came to you. Feelings and actions that you take, these are God's thoughts and feelings and actions. Don't shut them down. Harness it. This time of year, we talk about giving, November. We talk about birth, December. And we talk about new beginnings, January, right? We have giving, birth, new beginnings. Harness the universe that's knocking at your door in the next 3 months, or that you already know is there, you're just ignoring it. You just put it on a piece of paper and shove it in a drawer somewhere, right? Seek it out. Fill it with the glory of creation. Don't be afraid. God has called you by your name. These kids have this gift, and with that gift is the action of love, right? How do you harness the universe? Not by words taught by human wisdom, but by words taught by the Spirit. Expressing truth in spiritual words. The still small voice, the gut feeling, the reaction from your action, right? This is the energy that is incorporated into your life. It's God's mind, recognizing, harnessing the energy, and expressing it with love. Now you just need to move. Just move with it. Don't resist it. Don't ask why. Okay?